Luke Delmeyer. Luke Delmeyer knives, handcrafted, handmade knives. I use mine every time we go to the pop-ups, and it is ridiculous. It is just something special. There's something different. It's handcrafted. It's handmade. Luke has grown since we started the show to now, where he is pumping out knives and classes. I want to push his classes. If you go to lukedelmeyer.com, it has all the information for the classes, and you get to take a 2-day course, and you go over everything from safety on how to use it. You're selecting the knife handles out, and you're really from top to bottom getting to go through the whole experience. Where else can you find that in the Valley? Luke is a very special person to the show. He's really cool. We've done projects together. We have apparel we're doing together. I really want you to go check it out. If you're interested in handcrafted stuff, working class stuff, blue collar stuff, like this is the area you need to go to. But it's lukedelmeyer.com. Luke Delmeyer, handcrafted knives. Sign up for those classes, those courses. Go check that out. It's really cool. It's a 2-day event, and you get to experience making your own knife, and then you take your knife home with you. And you're going to take home a little bit more than that. So check out Luke Delmeyer, friend of the show. Always awesome watching him grow. lukedelmeyer.com. mindleafcbd.com. Mindleaf. Easton Zone, Mindleaf CBD. I didn't know a lot about CBD till they became a sponsor and they started coming on the show a lot. And Liz is huge for, I learn something every time she comes on. They are over in College Hill in Easton. You can check out all their information on mindleafcbd.com. I believe you can order there, but go experience the store. Liz's mom works over there. Liz keeps bringing in products such as the honey flights. They have peanut butter, the infused pretzels. My favorite thing is the tinctures to go to sleep. I have problems sleeping, and these things put me out, and I have a little bit of lucid dreams riding a unicorn, and then I wake up back to normal, and then I get excited to do that again. So my big thing I use with them is the tinctures and the balm. The balm is another one. I use it for aches and pains on my knees, and my old man uses it for his arthritis. Mindleaf CBD. They are over in Easton on College Hill. Please go check the store out. Really cool space, and like I said, Liz's mom's over there, and they will help you with everything. It's awesome that they're super local, and I stand behind their CBD and everything that they got coming out of there. That's Mindleaf CBD, mindleafcbd.com. All right, Never Again Radio. I don't know what episode this is. That was a bad clap. Let me do it again. I never have a bad clap. I used to in the beginning. I would hit the fucking mic. It would hit me up in the face. The good old days. Welcome back, lady.
Hey, hey.
I always enjoy when you come back on because we just naturally have a conversation, and then I always get informed because I'm still trying to understand everything you do. Let's just kind of break the ice with what's new, what's going on. You always bring products, and you always have something fresh and funky. I see some soap. I see a pipe. What do you want to get into?
So I actually brought some of my collaborative things that we have in the store. We're making soaps with Papa Cap Soap Company.
He's in Nazareth, right?
Yeah, his name's Nick Capozzola.
Shout out, another Nazareth guy.
Hey, hey.
2 in a row.
We keep it local, you know. So yeah, we're doing infused soaps. They're CBD soaps. What's cool about them is like CBD fights inflammation. So like I use them to shave my legs. I don't get razor burn from so like the CBD helps with that. But we have a pine tar one, and we have like an oat milk and honey, I think this is.
You went through the whole process of making that soap with him, correct? Because I follow him on social media, and I see the how his process of it, which is interesting.
It's super interesting.
Because the only time I've ever seen soap being made was like Fight Club.
Yeah, with the lye. We're like burning ourselves
like
with the lye.
stealing the fat from the plastic surgery place or whatever.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
Yeah, it gets caught on the fence.
Yeah, no, Nick's not using plastic surgery fat, but yeah, his process is cool. I haven't like been there through the whole thing.
Yeah.
But he sends me pictures, which I get like really excited about. Something that I think is cool is like there is like a little bit of like the soap is in charge kind of. You don't get to control like every little thing. So like color wise, we were kind of surprised at some of the colors, and I thought that was cool because I like that level of unpredictability. Almost. It makes it like exciting. You know what I mean? But the pine tar one is really cool too. Let me see what's in here. Clay, pine tar, black mica, sweet almond oil, all kinds of butters.
He seems to have it down. I've been meaning to have him on and book him. It's just been crazy. With scheduling is probably one of the hardest things for me to do, but I want to have him on. I'm just interested in how that's made. And once I started following him, I was like, oh, this is crazy and weird. And it's just a lot of stuff I don't understand. So I have questions.
Yeah, it's definitely like out of my realm of understanding too.
Very similar to baking. I just don't get it.
Yeah. He also, I know he like sets up at Nazareth Days down at the park or whatever they're called.
Or when they do it in the I think they're in the summer, they have, what's it called? It's our version of like a public market on Saturdays. So in the Circle, they set up shops and whatnot in the Circle. So he might be there.
Cool.
Yeah.
I didn't actually realize that.
No one knows what's going on here.
Something happened in Nazareth.
Yeah. So yeah, on Saturdays they have a public market up the street. A decent amount of people for Nazareth go there. And then I'm not sure if he sets up there. I'm sure he does. There's like small businesses in town. So like there was a guy who was like 3D printing like flower pots and different things. And then it was cool to actually see people in Nazareth that I didn't know had businesses. So then there was just some stuff that you go through. Then they have a couple of local farms, and then they have like bacon and eggs and stuff like that. And then they have other farmers who bring in produce. And then they used to bring in this Amish guy. I used to live across the street from the Circle, and every Saturday I would go there and he'd bring these cookies down from so they usually have some sort of baked good. Staley's is probably there now. Somebody was doing breakfast sandwiches there. We definitely want to tap into either having coffee up there or just being open for the people coming and going.
Yeah.
So it'll be a nice compliment to kind of what they're doing, and I'll be set up differently to kind of shed more light on things in town. But yeah, I like that he's doing that. I talked to him for a little bit. It's cool.
Yeah, definitely.
How did you guys link up? Did you just so if somebody wanted, there's a lot you do that I feel like a lot of people don't realize, but like there's a lot of collaboration that is involved with CBD, and you could do it with food and drink and whatnot. And we talk about doing some projects all the time. So like, did you guys just kind of like, he reach out to you, or were you looking for a soap person? Because then you just basically supplied him with CBD, correct?
Pretty much, yeah. I get excited experimenting with infusions too, and I think doing like unexpected ones is exciting for me. So I was kind of looking for a soap guy, mostly because we did Chris Kindlemart, and you know the grandmas down there are like marijuana.
Yeah.
So like I wanted like a
buffer.
Yeah, I wanted a product that was like family friendly.
Yeah.
You know. So
I think it's a good idea to be doing different stuff though. I mean, if you're like definitely. Me, I get bored and like just want to go into another lane.
Yeah. I like doing that. I get overwhelmed very easily though.
Yeah.
So just stick to what I know quite a bit.
Yeah. So then after the soap, what was the other thing you said? You said you have a new flower or something?
Ooh, yeah. So this is not, I obviously don't grow the flower. That's not the license that I have in Pennsylvania, but we stock local flower. And what we're getting in now is called THCA. And this is like just the craziest shit, honestly. So I know when we talk about cannabinoids, I lose people.
Yep.
It's a lot of information. A lot of the cannabinoids have like all the same letters, which is like not convenient for anybody to understand. But I'm going to try to explain this. So THCA is the precursor to THC. So it's like a form of a THC molecule that grows naturally in the plant, and it converts to THC when you smoke it. But the funny thing is, the government didn't regulate THCA; they regulated THC. So now that like the cannabis industry is the science is outpacing regulation at this point. So they're hybridizing plants to make them high in THCA content, which is still legal, and then just not have any THC in the plant. So the plant is legal to sell, but it's basically like weed. It's hemp. I just want to say, like, it's hemp. In my store, I have hemp. But I'll try to, like, compare it to, like... Okay, so, like, if you... Let's compare it to a cupcake. Okay? A cupcake is going to be THC. That's what's regulated by the government. The government says you can't have cupcakes without a license. But we're selling, like, the batter, cupcake batter, which is like as soon as you put heat to it, it's going to be a cupcake. But like, you know, we just have the batter and it's legal to sell the batter.
Dudes, like every time you're on, it seems like they keep pushing. Like the last time we were on, it was Delta 8, and then now it seems like this is a new thing. Mm-hmm. Is this just all pushing the boundaries until eventually they're just like, just fucking pass it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's the holdup on?
It should have been passed like long ago at this point.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania's fucking up, to be real with you. Like Jersey.
Especially if Jersey went first, which I thought was crazy because Jersey's insane with everything else.
And like our area, we're so close to Jersey.
Yep.
Like my store is, I want to say, less than 2 miles from a dispensary.
Yeah, because they put that dispensary right by the bridge, which was brilliant.
And like, you know, we're missing out on so much tax revenue that it's stupid that they haven't just passed it. But you know.
Yeah.
Hey.
But I like that you guys carry the Delta 8 and then now this stuff. It's I feel like you can grab both customers where you have somebody coming in to kind of look at what you want, but then there's also a customer who wants to get high.
Yeah. So that's kind of like what we try to really drive home to everybody is like, you can get high legally, naturally, without a license. You can also get high with a license, and I can help with that too. But there are products that are legal hemp products that will just, you know, get you zooted.
Yeah, I've had people come down here because you gave me the Deltas last time, and my buddy's like, I want to get into gummies. And then, like, you know, you have people that don't want to go to the dark side of the moon on a gummy. Mm-hmm. So, like, I like the Deltas and the fact that, like, it kind of gives you a roof. I mean, you could always take more, but I'm like, I like a controlled high. Like, when I take gummies, I'm like a 3 to 5 milligram person. I don't like if I have nothing to do.
Cheap date.
And we can keep going on them for a while. So if I have nothing to do, I will definitely sit on that couch and get stupid and get into a movie. But like if I'm bar hopping and I want to feel a little bit flighty and I don't feel like carrying a pen with me all day, like the Deltas and all that stuff are super convenient for that. And then when I gave them to people who like weren't, because I have my friends who are like, hey, can you get me this? Can you get me that? Or like they get their own stuff because they have a license and like they're just doing their own thing because they're that far along. But then there's also people who like just like to dabble in it and they'll just take a Delta 8 and that's like their version of a gummy and they don't need to go into, you know, a K-hole and sit on their couch. Like, so I like the Deltas. And then it's, I remember the first time you gave me those, you're like, yo, you'll feel flighty. And I like texted you and was like, I'm fucked up and I have a whole day to complete. Like, and then I was glad I didn't give any to Jesse because Jesse almost tried one and he's never gotten high in his entire life.
Really?
Yeah.
Good for him.
I guess.
Good for him. Yeah, the Deltas are much more manageable. They're just like the high without the anxiety. You can be very high functioning.
Yeah, that's a better way to explain it, but you're in this business. It's high functioning. Like you can function on it.
I call it diet weed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
or like THC light.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of nice. Like for me, I really clam up in social situations when I'm high.
Yeah.
And Delta 8 is like, it helps me reduce my social anxiety rather than, amplify it and get weird.
Yeah. I mean, when I go too far, I have to tell everyone that I'm too fucked up. Like, I'll just announce, because I won't stop thinking about it. So I'll just be in the room and be like, hey, everyone, I'm really high, and I'm going to be this way for the next 3 hours. So if I do dumb stuff, like I don't do it all the time, I'm like, that is why. And then everybody laughs. And then it like, internally, I'm breaking the ice like a bad date or something. And then once I do that, then I'm like, all right, cool. But it was all mental. Like everyone else was fucked up too.
Yeah, definitely. I hate the feeling of feeling too high. I do want to say really quickly, THC and CBD actually kind of like negate each other. So if you ever get too high, take some CBD.
I didn't know that until I got licensed to buy marijuana and I got my card. Mm-hmm. And I had to go through the whole process, and like they make you talk to the whole process is like you have to like talk to somebody who then is like a doctor who's like, hey, you are able to get this because you meet the criteria of like post-traumatic stress, which I think is what you have to have in Pennsylvania in order to have it. Like you can't just be like, I have anxiety. Where does that come from?
Now.
You can now?
Now you can. They've added anxiety. Yeah.
Because like when I went, I was just like, hey, what's this? And they're like, all right, well, like go through your list. And like I thought I was gonna have to lie to them, and I was just like, yeah. Because I said to my friend, I'm like, what do I tell them? And she's like, I don't know, just tell them. So when the girl like asked me, and I was like, hey, this happened to me, this happened to me, this happened to me. And she's like, hey, you can stop there. And I'm like, what? And she's like, you hit every post-traumatic stress option we have available. Like, we don't need to go any further. So then I was like, okay. But then didn't realize that, like, that was the first time where I'm like, oh, like, this is something that can help with, obviously, the post-traumatic stress and the anxiety and all that. And I never looked at it as, oh, this is what I should do to kind of come down when I have anxiety. Like, I always just looked at it as getting fucked up. And then when I started getting more information on it, the lady was like, well, we're going to consult with a doctor. And what it sounds like for you is that, like, you like getting a little floaty, but you don't want to get too high. So then we're going to up the CBD. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, oh, now I understand. It was like our podcast from every time we do this. Like, I was just kind of remembering conversations. And I'm like, oh, this is like the CBD is like complementing the THC. And then I was like, what's cool is you can then like find something that is heavy CBD, and then you can kind of like go through your day, or if like you're not looking to go to the moon. Because then when I was in Vegas, I was like, hey, I want something to go to the moon, and I got it. But I was like, that's not something I do recreationally to get through my day. It's like that's a specific time of like, we are not moving for 4 hours.
Yeah.
But I like knowing now that like what CBD actually does with the THC. Can you explain that better?
So it's not that they cancel each other out. It's just it kind of like lowers the head high. I feel like an easy way to explain it is like THC is like cerebral, goes to your head. You feel the high. It's psychoactive. CBD is more of like a body euphoria. So like if you were to just take CBD, you would feel it in your body. And then the combo is just, it makes like a more mellow high. But if you up your CBD intake, it will bring your high down. So like I said, if you get too high and you're feeling uncomfortable, just like take some CBD, take some tincture, like a CBD gummy, and it'll bring you back down. And also, if you are a person that likes to be on the moon and you smoke all the time and like your tolerance is like way too high and you want to take a tolerance break, but like you miss smoking every day.
Yeah.
Smoking CBD will bring your tolerance down because it's like actually preventing THC from like bonding with your endocannabinoid receptors.
Yeah.
So like it'll help with your tolerance.
It makes sense. Mm-hmm. When you brought up the tinctures, what have you been doing with tinctures lately? The last time you were here, you brought me I have trouble sleeping, and I get into serious, terrible patterns. I'm in one now where I stay up to like 3 in the morning. It sucks because it's like I don't want to stay up that late. It's just what's going on. And when I had the tinctures last time, they worked awesome. And I didn't know how they would work. I didn't know if it was going to be similar to melatonin because you also gave me like nighttime the edibles or the whatever
the
gummy.
CBN ones. Yeah.
Those worked awesome, and it was like kind of like a heavy dose of melatonin just because I like melatonin, but then my body builds like in 3 days. I just I have to stop taking melatonin or I have to take the whole bottle. So it's like I only get like a couple of breaks on actual sleep. But when I was taking the tinctures and the gummies, either when I was doing them separate, it was the first time in a long time I was getting like rock solid sleep.
I'm changing our tincture line right now. Like I'm in like an R&D phase, testing some stuff out. So right now we have a daytime and a nighttime tincture. There's CBD isolated tinctures, so there's just like one cannabinoid in there and it's CBD. And the only thing that differentiates daytime from nighttime are the terpenes that we infuse it with. So we use limonene for the daytime one that kind of helps with like mental focus. We use linalool and phytol for the nighttime one, which helps with like relaxation. It's like a shared terpene with like lavender. So it's not, the tinctures are not particularly sedative. They just promote relaxation. But the CBN gummies, they are sedative. They'll knock you out. And like that's kind of the direction I'm going to start moving with the tinctures. I'm basically going to just like knock everything down to 1,200 milligrams. We're going to have one potency available. It's going to be a little bit cheaper. And then I'm just going to have, I think like I'm working on 6 or 7 different formulas. So I'll still have the CBD isolate one if people don't want the THC aspect of it. We'll have a broad spectrum CBD one. We'll have a full spectrum CBD one. We'll have a sleepy time one with.
What's the difference between broad and full?
So CBD products all need to like fall into one of these classifications. Isolates are just the one single cannabinoid. It's CBD. Broad spectrum is CBD and other cannabinoids like CBN and CBC and those things, but no THC. And then full spectrum has like the trace amounts of THC. They're very negligible. It's less than 0.3%. But when they're all together, it creates a more efficient product because it's called the entourage effect. And basically, like, all the cannabinoids are buds. So when they're all together in the same product, they just all work a little bit more efficiently.
I like getting knocked out for the sleep stuff. I feel like I like the idea of like kind of slowing down and calming, but like that stuff, like I was taking a decent amount of it, but I like to be knocked out. Like I want to go to bed, and I feel like I was being knocked out and then was getting like actual sleep because I wake up a lot, which I didn't realize like when I started. This is interesting just because I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, but like my experience and like how I sleep is like I'm disrupted constantly with sleep. Like either it's from sleep apnea or I hear something or I'm constantly, I wake up very easily. And I feel like when I was taking the tincture, that wasn't happening. Like, cause I think I was calm. Like, I think I'm just on high alert all the time and I'm just stressed out. And like, I'll find some times where I just wake up and I'm like clenched and I'm like, ugh, and it's terrible. And I don't get good sleep and I wake up and things hurt. And when I was using those, I wasn't having that. I was calming down. I was sleeping the entire night. Nothing was being disrupted. And then when I woke up, I was actually feeling rested. Like there was a little bit of the wake ups a little bit. Like the only problem is I wanted to keep sleeping where I was like, this is so comfortable. Cause it's like a blanket. Like when you're in the winter and you don't want to get out of bed cause it's cold. It was doing that, but like it was way better than a Benadryl. It was way better than a melatonin where you wake up. Cause melatonin is also hard where like that carries in the morning. Cause if you don't time it correctly, That was the other thing I liked too, is that like if I didn't time it correctly and it was still late, I still was able to knock myself out. It wasn't like, oh, well, I can't take that. It's going to carry over. It's funny because I don't know why I didn't hit you up or go get more of it, but I really haven't had correct sleep since last year.
Of all the things I brought, I didn't bring any sleepy time gummies.
No, I'll come up. I want to see your mom and the store and whatnot, because you guys have so much more there than that. But yeah, when I had it, like, it was the only real sleep I was getting for a very long time.
So this is like the number one thing that people are looking to manage when they walk into my store, aside from like, college kids wanting to get high. It's mostly like people looking for help with sleep or looking for help with pain.
Yeah.
And sleep, like you said, is like, there are people that fall on this spectrum of like either not being able to fall asleep or they just wake up intermittently through the night. So CBD can actually help with sleeping straight through the night, because a lot of the times it is linked to anxiety, and CBD can help manage your anxiety, and then, you just more restful sleep. But the CBN is that'll knock you out, man. That's like a trank dart to the neck.
Yep. There's no hangover either. I usually just do alcohol to knock myself out sometimes.
Yeah. It's So we're working on one of those. I'll have it in tincture form now. We do have it in gummy form right now.
Yeah.
It's available right now, $20 a bag.
Because you had daytime and nighttime you gave me.
The tinctures?
No, the gummies.
Oh, well, I don't have like a specific daytime gummy, but we have several kinds of gummies you can take all day.
I forget what it was that you gave me, but I knew there was like, you were like, take the blue ones. It was like very Matrix. You're like, the blue ones are to relax. The red is for the day.
The Morpheus of
CBD.
Yeah. I probably gave you a CBG one too, which is like the pain management cannabinoid. It's not, I don't want to say like it's like a painkiller, because it absolutely is not like a painkiller, but it's more like a muscle relaxant. So like if your pain is muscular or like inflammation based, or like even like if you have like anxiety and you're like a tensor.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Chill you right out.
Do you still have like the rubs? Mm-hmm. Have you been developing anything new with those or putting time into those? My dad used those, and he's always like, "Can you get me more of that?" And I'm like, "Yeah." But like, he was a big, his massive knee problems. It's where my life is headed, but like his arthritis and stuff, and like that was really cool to see it actually work, because I feel like the reputation of CBD has changed over the years, but in the beginning it was all like, it's just stupid witchcraft. Where now it's like, for me to personally see it work on somebody who's in constant pain, and then I don't have to smell Ben Gay. It's cool. So I didn't know if you were doing anything new with that product, or if you just kind of like flow with, like, right now you're heavy tinctures, so you stay in tinctures, then you get bored with tinctures, then go to gummies, and then like, I don't know. I'm just kind of relating to how I operate.
You and I are cut from the same cloth. Like I'm just constantly changing everything all of the time. I can't relax.
Yeah.
I can't let it go. So yeah, we're making the salves stronger. So we'll be having a blowout sale on the
original.
Right now they're 400 milligrams per tin.
Do you only have one?
We have 3.
Okay. What are the differences with them?
One is a full spectrum one, which I mentioned means that it has those like little trace amounts of THC in them. And what that does topically is it kicks in a little faster, and then your relief period is a little longer. So if you're looking for the most efficient product I have topically, it's the full spectrum salve. But I do have 2 broad spectrum ones too, if you don't want the THC element. I have a cool...
You're not going to feel the effects of that by putting a rub on you, are you?
No.
Yeah.
No, you won't. But, it's a thing for some people. THC is a scary thing for a lot of people.
Yes, especially in Pennsylvania.
You're not kidding. But we have a cooling one It's vanilla mint, and then we have one that like heats you up. It's a cayenne and citrus.
Oh, cool.
So,
See, I didn't know you had any of those either. I'm just going to bring my dad in, which will
Yeah.
be fun in itself because he just doesn't go anywhere.
I'll bring you one of each. You
Yeah.
can try. The gold one is really good.
I think that's what originally he was using that was helping the most.
The gold one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I color code all of my packaging. So all the gold stuff is like what has THC in it. So if you are looking for like full spectrum CBD things or, you know, things that'll get you high,
The gold package.
go gold.
Yeah. Your packaging, I want to hang out on a little bit because the branding's really cool, and I like how you've done everything and you've changed your packaging, and I like how like the solo stuff with the match and all that. Like, where's your packaging changing, or is there like, are you guys getting into any kind of rebranding, or like, where do you want to do with your tincture bottles? Like, what's kind of, I mean, that's got to be fun to do all that, or is it a giant pain in the ass?
I like it. So I was like an art student. So this is like kind of where my background is in, like design and all that stuff. But, you know, now we're doing stuff that barely has anything to do with our degrees.
That's life.
So I do like designing it, but it definitely is like an added element of stress. Like I think that like I'm such a perfectionist that like sometimes people like look at my stuff and they don't realize that like I am doing everything myself.
Yeah.
And that's good, I guess. I want to be able to hang with like people who have way bigger budgets than I do in this industry. And I think that I do because I take the time and put the care into my look and my sourcing and all this stuff. So I want people to feel like they have a quality product in their hands because they do.
Yeah, I've always been impressed by it, and I always think, you know, just it feels like it's a real product. Like the tinctures, the bags, everything that comes down to it. It just, I don't know. Like that was always important to me. Like the guest I had on last night was like, I didn't know this was this much put into it, but I was like, yeah, I was like, we didn't know what we were doing, but from the beginning, I always was like, let's overproduce it and let's oversell it in the fact of like, you know, if I would have kept it low budget, I don't know if it would ever went to this, because my goal was always trying to catch up to what it was presented as, which makes you kind of chase after being more of a real business and stuff like that, especially early on when like you don't know what you're doing. But I always liked overdoing it to a sense, because then you can kind of hang out with the people who actually have a budget and like producers and help, and you're not just running in a circle by yourself turning cameras on. like
I mean, it comes at the price of like you eating ramen noodles every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think like people think I'm probably a lot more successful than I am. My company is successful because I don't take a lot of a paycheck. Like I put so much money back into my business for like the last 4 years because I just, you know, I am a perfectionist asshole. Like I just have to be like, I work myself to the bone to like reach perfection, and it, you know, it costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of time.
I think it's different too when you're trying to grow something. You know, it'd be different if like you started this, it hit the shelves of like, you know what I mean? Say you got into like wholesale and it like blew up, and then like you have money to work with. It's way different than like completely like grassrooting it and like having to do pop-ups and having to get the college kids to understand what you're doing over there. And like that's super draining. And then when you dump all of your money back into the business and you're kind of left with nothing, it's very difficult to keep going. But then I feel like because of your art background and because of the product and because you're good at making all this and you give a shit, you keep going. Because sometimes you look at it and it's like, well, what else would I do?
Well, like the backbone of it is definitely quality product. Like when you were
I think that's huge.
When you're talking about like how CBD once upon a time came across as like snake oil.
Yeah.
It absolutely did. And a lot of that is because like there is not everybody has integrity in the business. So sometimes
I feel like gas stations ruin that.
Yeah, they do. Well, like honestly, a lot of companies like they get their products white labeled from like these core factories that just have like tons and tons and tons of CBD products to choose from. And they just slap a sticker on it and call it their own product. And they have no idea what is actually in it. They have nothing to do with manufacturing. They have nothing to do with sourcing. But I do. I source everything. I work with farms. I produce everything in a kitchen that like I run. So it's like...
It's pretty crazy how you got that set up too.
My kitchen?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was a big moment for me.
Yeah. It's cool when you're going through and building something like that. And it's very similar to like when I got this place. It's like, I can work. And then you're like, because it's not easy to do in the beginning and nothing works correctly because you're trying to just do something you weren't doing before.
We were like renting space in like restaurant kitchens. Cause like, so I haven't really taken money from investors. My company is still like self-funded because I wanted to like maintain ownership. So like I was really, scraping by in the beginning, and a way to save money was I was, renting kitchen space after hours at local restaurants. Giacomo's actually is where I started.
Yeah.
And like, it is just so nerve-wracking, number one, to have like the health board inspector come in and watch you navigate a kitchen that is not your own.
Yeah.
And like it's just like really nice to have a space where I can like comfortably create. And I like designed the whole kitchen myself, so it's just like absolutely perfect for like what I need to use it for. It's nice. I'm like in my little domain over there.
It's freeing when you're trying to build something in the beginning and you don't have anywhere. Like we switched studios. It started in my apartment. Then we went to Bethlehem. Then from Bethlehem, we went to Easton. Then from Easton, we were doing it in apartments again because we still had guests booked. And then when we found this place, this is either year 5 or 6 I've been down here. I think it's year 5. So, I mean, like, I was able to build this business to a point where now I'm like moving and doing all this other stuff. And, one of my friends was like, do you even realize what you did out of here? And I'm just like, no. Because it's like, I just needed a space to work. And it's just a space to work. But when you have that, it's like, it's freeing in a sense of like, all right, now I can just focus on work. Like I can focus on making. I can focus on creating. I can focus on everything comes down to like the space. If you didn't have the kitchen, you wouldn't have anything else.
Yeah, but it's also cool that like your friends kind of like check you a little bit on it, because I think like when you are on your grind of like developing your business,
it's very self-loathing.
Like, you hate. Yeah, like you're never satisfied with anything, and like super hard on yourself
miserable.
and whatever. Like when you're in
beers
it
and
every
tears.
day, freaking beers and tears. I'm telling you, too many beers, too many tears. I think like when you're in it every day and you're just grinding, you do lose sight of like how far you've come. So sometimes like my friends who like see my kitchen for the first time, they're like, oh man,
That's cool.
awesome.
Yeah. I remember seeing it before it was even a kitchen, and it was just the space, and you were talking about doing it, and there was a table there. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh man, like, because I know what it's like to stumble upon something where somebody doesn't make rent unattainable for you, and you can actually grow a business out of it. And then like my landlord made this so accessible for me and just basically put it at a price point where I could grow the business because it wasn't astronomical to come. Like when we were in Bethlehem, it was almost $2,000 a month, and people were like, hey, we're all going to kick in. Nobody kicked in. It was more than my apartment. So it's like I left my apartment. I was dumping, $900 of that into $1,500, and still, I was barely able to afford that rent, let alone more. And then eventually it just fell through and I couldn't keep up with rent, and we moved. And like, that sucks to do. Like we had to tear the whole place down, had to move out. The landlord was pissed at me, and like, you know what I mean? It's like, that was the first time I ever dealt with something like that before. Yeah. But then when I got this place, it was like, oh man, I'm 6 minutes from my mom. So like, I can go to Planet Fitness if I want to shower. Like I can, it was just it was so much stress taken off of me where I was just like, at least I can work. Worst case scenario, I can get back in the lab. I don't know. It was freeing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like when you're an entrepreneur, like your work kind of is your safe space. You know what I mean?
No, this whole place is built for that.
Yeah, totally. I definitely am very in my zone in my kitchen. It's
Music, the walls, everything, every bit and piece of this studio is designed for me to look at moments or for me to feel relaxed, and the
Yeah.
lighting, and it's the only way I can work.
I feel like my kitchen is lacking art at the moment. That's like the one thing that like you've seen my apartment.
Yeah.
I'm like I cover my walls in art. So I feel like that's like the one thing I need to maybe like continue to work on up there.
That's a slippery slope, because then you can just start, like the new space for me is going to be bigger. So I have 2 trunks in the back just filled with art and like more weird stuff. And I'm like, oh, like I had a moment where I was like, oh, like I wonder what I'm going to do there. Like, cause I don't think I'm going to like the boring thing will always be a part of it. But like, I'm like, I wonder if I'll even use those. Cause like they've been around me for too long, where I just need like a new fresh look. Or I'm like, am I going to use those for like a lobby? There's going to be a hallway. And then I was like, man, this is going to be fun. But then there's also a part of me that's like, I don't want to really use a lot of this stuff. I want to and I won't part with any of it. But like, I'm excited to have a whole new palette to like paint walls. And like I've been talking with my buddy, like I want to build a tiki bar, but like with the new studio, I want to kind of do it like Disney, where like I actually like build in it. So like I want to put like a palm tree like off the wall and like into the ceiling, and like but what's cool is like this guy Barry I had on, he's a sign guy in Nazareth. And he was so fortunate because he was an older guy and no one ever knew his story. And I just brought him on because I thought he was interesting because he was my friend's neighbor. But so many people went and checked out his podcast, but they're from a generation that doesn't understand this. So like, I'm used to people being like, hey, cool, I'll put it out there. Maybe somebody will look like it. Where he was like, there were so many older people that were like, what was this guy who told your story? And like, he was so thankful. And like, he worked for Mattel and like, he built sets for movies and stuff. So like, he's like, yo, I want to help you. So I'm like, oh, I'm pulling that card for favors from Barry, and I'll make this look like.
What a cool job.
Yeah. And it was,
Just
dude, he had a
building
dune
sets.
buggy shop in the 70s in Nazareth.
Stop.
Yeah.
You know, like I thought
He built a
when I was-
UFO in his backyard and used to have these massive parties that were so big WZZO would contact him about
my
them.
God.
Yeah, he had like
I wanna
legit
meet this
bands.
guy.
Yeah. He lives down the road.
That's pretty cool. In the UFO. Is this where the UFO is?
Well, see, I brought up the UFO because it was kind of an inside joke with my friends. So Barry has this like weird Easter egg looking like looks like a small version of Epcot, and he has it over a koi pond. So it's there so he can like seasonally go into this space where like I think it's heated and like he can keep plants and his koi fish are not disrupted by the weather. Because my dad has koi fish and like I think it's a blue herring will come in and eat them if you don't put a net over them. And then in the winter, they actually just freeze and then some of them die. So we always used to just joke around because my buddy was neighbors with him that we'd be like, oh, Barry's contacting aliens. So like it was the first time I ever did it in a podcast where it was like a very normal conversation and we were just talking about all this stuff. And I had like 5 minutes before I wanted to close. And I was like, Barry, I can't not do this interview without asking you. Do you talk to aliens in your backyard with that thing? Because I knew my friends would listen to it. And then he starts laughing and he's like, no, but he's like, one time I built a spaceship. And he tells me this whole story about how he created this spaceship. And I'll show you the pictures after the show. It was in the paper. And like back in the day when people didn't have social media, his planes and helicopters used to fly over his yard to show people this giant spaceship that he built. So then he built a stage attached to it. And he used to have these crazy parties where like people would come down and these bands would play in his property in Bushkill, and then WZZO got caught wind of it and they started like announcing Barry's like spaceship parties. So it was just like a very innocent joke question that turned into me finding out. So after he left, he was so excited about like just retelling all these stories. He like came down with a photo album and he legitimately built a spaceship, like a huge spaceship in the backyard. But then it like
sounds like a blast.
It brought you back to a time when like I remember my dad and mom would like drive us by shit, like even the beer stein in Wing Gap, because it was like a giant beer stein, but like social media didn't exist. So if they wanted to show us cool shit, we'd have to drive by it. And
Like
then
the Dixie cup.
yeah, yeah, but like that was a real thing that people did back in the day, and they'd be like, somebody fell in that Dixie cup and drowned because it filled with rain, and there was always like, tales of whatnot.
The
but
lore.
yeah, there was a guy back in Bushkill who had a pet bear. There was like there was like a family of bears or something, and they built the cage around it in the winter or something happened. So then he had this pet bear, but we would drive by as kids, and sure enough, there's a fucking bear in the guy's backyard.
Get
But my
out.
parents used to do stuff like that with us all the time. But like, it's not now where you would just see somebody like he would have his own account and would be like, "This is Gary the Bear," and you know what I mean? Like he'd
Yeah,
have his
yeah.
own TikTok and like cattle prodded to dance. But but yeah, so I mean, it was cool finding all that out, and then he was so grateful. He didn't stop bothering me for like 2 months, just thanking me nonstop because like all these people that like he grew up with in the 70s and the 60s like got to relive these stories with Barry. So like he's like, dude, if you need any help in the new studio, and like I don't want to do this, I could recreate this 10 times. Like I want the new studio to be the new studio. So the more I keep thinking about it, I'm like, well, we're going to be building sets to do podcasts in. So I was like, we should build a tiki bar and like build a fucking palm tree and have it go into the fucking ceiling. And
I
then
want to help
make
build it.
leaves come down, and like it's all shit.
Do you know what my
You just
dream
need
job
people
was?
to do it.
My dream job as a child was I wanted to build the games for The Price is Right.
What?
Like the Price is Right games when they
Yeah.
like wheel out the yodeler or like Plinko or
Who
whatever.
even thinks about who made those?
I want to build these fucking sets, these
Yeah.
game sets. Like I think that would be so cool.
You should do that and then put on like a small carnival and host it by Mindleaf and have people come on and play the games to win prizes. I think you should recreate some version of that and do it.
I'll see. I'll see what I can do. It's gonna be
Who
like
wants to make the Planko or Plinko thing?
it would be such a bootleg Plinko. It'd be like a piece of plywood with like
Yeah, I never even
rusty
thought
nails on
about the people that had to make that shit. And there was probably a team of them, and they
it. They
probably
did a
just
great
yeah.
fucking job. Everything had like lights
Yeah, it
blinking
got wheeled out.
and like
Yeah.
whistles and bells and all kinds of shit. It was like pretty great.
Yeah. I never thought who would actually make that shit, because the one was like I remember there was like a horse would race or something.
Yeah. Or like the showcase wheel.
Yeah, that was like such a big. That was all electronic and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to do a lot of stuff over there. I just want to work with creative people because I met so many people through this and so many different artists where like there's people where, like I had an artist on who's local and he brought me more art and I was like, oh, cool, I'll frame this. And like there's just new things I collect, or people usually will bring me something just because they're coming on, which I don't ask, and it's uncomfortable when they give me, especially when it's like that light or the one behind me, where it's like, dude, like that would cost so much money. Like
It's an awesome light.
but with the new studio, I want to make that space more. I'm leaving this, as much as this is awesome. This is a part of the journey and the story that needs to go. And like as much as I want to hold on to it, I know let it all go. Like
We're
it's
all
just
evolving.
Yeah,
We're all
like I'm
evolving
like
all the time.
Like there was a lot that went on here. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of good things, a lot of bad things, a lot of phone calls that were good, a lot of phone calls that were bad. So like when I kind of looked at it, because I didn't know what I was going to do, like I'm like, man, you're going to get, I know I'm going to be emotional because it's crazy to have done this and then kind of look at it from somebody else's perspective. But then moving forward, I'm like, let's just let all that go. Like I don't want to paint the same painting. That's why I want to change the show. It's like when I made that post where you texted me and you're like, are you leaving podcasting? It was kind of like the first step of me being like, I just kind of want to change what I'm doing. I don't want to do the same thing.
I was devastated, Michael.
On that, well, see, on that, it's this is a tool that I use to keep my mental health and my sanity locked down, and I only know that because I didn't realize it till halfway through I was building it. It was never built for a business. It was always built for like me. I started it during a fucked up time in my life, and then it became a tool that I used in order to find like a happy place or whatnot. So that's all it ever will be. And yeah, I can monetize off of it and keep it going, but like I have to do this in order to like maintain sanity. So on some sort of a level, I won't be able to stop doing any sort of creating at all. But like, I want to do new stuff. I want to make it less, everyone's going to be doing this. I'm ahead of the curve, but this is going to be this and this. Like, I want to get rid of some stuff.
Yeah.
My conversation will always be there. That's not going to change because it's me. But like, I want a little bit more, less studio feel, more TV, do more different stuff. So
I'm
like,
excited for you.
yeah, like that was kind of like that
I feel like you're
post.
shedding your skin.
I am. And it's skin I wanted to shed for a while, but I've just been kind of like, when you're building something, you don't know where it's going to go. So like, I'm excited to get into food. I'm excited that like, when I book stuff like this, would say to you, hey, do you want to do an hour interview? And then do you want to do an hour in the cooking thing? Like, do you have something you want to bring in? Like, I want to have more options than like, let's just sit at these tables. Because if I don't do that, it's just going to be this for another year.
Yeah.
Nothing changes.
I
Like,
want to do food.
Yeah.
I'd be excited to do food.
But there's a lot of people that I want to bring people on who don't know how to do food and make them do food. Like, it'd be funny. There's other parts of me that I want to share besides interviewing people. Like,
Yeah.
I'm good at it because I've just done it too much. But like, there's also like, I would like to get back to like, I like laughing. Like, these get super serious or like, are at a tone where sometimes I just wish they were a little bit lighter. It's how the show started, was comedy, and it was lighter and it wasn't super heavy.
Yeah,
and,
you're getting like attacked by dogs and shit.
yeah, I'd like to get back. I'd like to get back to that
I'd really
side
like
of
to
me.
get back to being attacked by
Yeah, I'd like to eat crickets again. I mean, that's why I started doing the sports show again, because that's like, it's not, there's no pressure on me. I'm not hosting. I'm just moving the camera around. I'm just relaxing. I can have beers and
Go sports.
That's about how much I know. Every once in a while, they're like, what's going on in UFC? But like, that's the tone of the show, is like, we're just dicking around. And like, now we're like, it's fun because like, we're starting to like get into gambling, and it's like risky, and we're not gambling a lot, but it's like, you know what I mean?
God.
Like, it's exciting to peer pressure my friend to start picking up a bad habit and see if it goes terribly
I
wrong.
can't. I worked at the casino before I started.
Yeah, I always
Mind
forget
Leaf.
that you work there.
Dude, almost a decade I worked there. You see, you want to talk about a wild job.
Yeah.
You see some shit in the casino. That's
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
probably crazier than bartending.
Yeah, I feel like nothing really surprises me anymore.
Yeah. You see every walk of life.
You do. It's also like really sad. I work. Like,
Yeah, broken people who like have just a little bit of money, or they're trying to get money to buy drugs, or like they're just there from the city because they came in on a
dude,
bus.
I worked 4 a.m. to noon, so that's like
That's crazy.
nobody's there having fun
No.
during that time.
No.
It's like you can't drink. There's no bands. It's not.
Yeah, how
like,
does that work? Because it's not, because when we were in Vegas, or even when we were at the Indian casino, it's alcohol the whole time, which I was like, it was like 2:00, and I'm like, we need to, like, they're going to cut us off. And my friend's like, no, it's not that.
Nope,
at
just
all.
Pennsylvania again.
I don't know why I live here. I think I will move
Pennsylvania is just
eventually.
really great when it comes to
weather.
like being chill and partying. But yeah, they just make you stop from, I think it's like 2 to 7. 5 hours of sobering up before it's
Yeah.
like,
But I mean, then again, who's drinking that late?
oh, you're funny. You are very.
What's New York? New York's cutoff is like 3, 4:00, maybe 5.
I don't know.
I know New York City's way longer. I think Philly's the same as here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Commonwealth state.
What else you got going on?
Over here, you want to talk about Kevin?
Yeah. You named your pipe.
This is Kevin. No, Kevin Smallark, aka Try Symbolize, my favorite local glass blower.
He was worked with you for the
We had a licensing event.
gala or whatever it was that we put on.
Yeah, it was down at Connections in Easton, and he
Yeah.
came and he was like blowing glass on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Cool guy. Very cool guy. Very interesting fella. He has like a pretty cool style. He does like a lot of I hope he doesn't watch this and like hears me like butchering how I talk about this glass, but I think it's like fumed something. I don't know, but he like makes these cool marbles that he attaches to it, and he sinks like little opals into it.
I've always been impressed with that kind of work and the amount of attention to detail and the different shit that you can do with it.
Yeah, like I've actually been to his studio a couple of times. It's over in Gurmansville. And he has like open studio space. I think that like if you are trying to get into glass blowing, you can like hit him up, and he's very inclined to help.
Yeah.
Like he's a very chill guy. But yeah, watching him like do his art, it's like he gets into like a flow state almost. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've only have ever met maybe one other person that did it. I worked retail years ago, and there was a guy there who's a very interesting guy, but he was the only person I ever met that like did glass blowing.
Yeah.
And it was just like such a unique, odd thing. And then I see it's becoming more popular, like there's TV shows on Netflix and stuff on it, but I've always just like, because I've gone to like Jim Thorpe in different areas where like you go into like head shops and then they just have like a whole, I'm trying to think where I was at, Reading or something there. It was a head shop and there was a whole basement, and like some of the shit they make is so insane.
It like I actually think it's like a means of laundering money these days. Like there's like glass museums in Philly where like the glass pieces will be like, oh, this pipe is like $45,000 and it's just like
some of the stuff makes it where I don't even want to touch it. Like I'm like, oh, I'm gonna.
I know even his stuff. Like I feel, but it's like I guess it's called like. Here we go again. Borosilicate.
Sure.
Glass. So it's sturdy.
Yeah.
I feel like one of the times I was with Kevin, he like threw a pipe on the ground and it freaked me out, but it didn't break. Like it's pretty sturdy stuff. And he just like, I wanted to bring some of his stuff to show because he just has like a really cool style, and we carry a lot of his pipes in the store. We don't have them online. We can't sell like accessories.
Yeah.
We'll call them online.
Do they move well, or do you get people that come in?
So he has like a wide range of pieces. Like we have like Chillums from like $35 to like some of his like more impressive like Sherlocks and stuff are like in the hundreds. But yeah, cool guy, cool art, cool stuff.
So besides your place, does he just wholesales them to people throughout the valley, or does he have his own shop in the valley? Or
he doesn't have his own shop, but he is on Instagram. I'm sure you can hit him up there to see like whatever he's doing, and also like he does a lot of the same shows we do. So like he'll do like the Cannabis Fest, or like sometimes he's at Chris Kindlemar, and like he's around.
Yeah, I want to get into the shows now that you're talking about that, and it's a good segue, and we can kind of round out on this to close. But you did so many shows, and then like and I got it because I used to do conventions, and I know what it's like for no one to show up at a convention. I know what it's like to load shit and go to a convention. I know what it's like to go to a convention and get a terrible spot where they were told you weren't going to be there, and you really powered through some conventions that were awesome, conventions that were shitty. Bring me into the world of you guys doing conventions, because I think you doing that is a necessary process of your business with growing and getting out there.
Yeah, we're out here grinding.
And I feel like a lot of people get an explanation, and it's a small version to what it's like coming into your shop. Because if you haven't been into the shop, I suggest going into the shop, because it's a whole different thing. Like you can listen to this podcast, you can buy this stuff, you can have it, whatever. But like to go in there and start interacting with people who know what the fuck they're talking about, and like I was like, I want to bring my dad in there because I want my dad to explain what's going on, so someone can be like, hey, this is what you want. This is the cooling. Like you know what I mean? Like you want direction. And I feel like when I went and saw you guys at Music Fest, one, it was just fun to see you guys out there. And then two, I was like seeing how many people who were uninformed or were just coming up and being like, well, what is this?
Yeah. So we have CBD products, but like we say that we basically sell CBD education. Everyone that works with me or for me is like very in the know. I stress like being well informed so that we can talk to people about, just the products, and also like it's an information overload, like learning about cannabinoids, terpenes, like all of these things, like it can be really overwhelming. So it is nice that I can trust like my mom or my partners to like be able to guide people to exactly what will help them the most. And the expos and the live shows, like this is like a necessary part of being in small business. So we're just like out here on the weekends grinding. Like we're set up locally. We do like you said, Music Fest. We did Garlic Fest. We're like in the
what
valley.
What were the sheds that you were in? What were those?
Chris Kindlemart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the circle?
No, we didn't do that.
I ran into you in the circle when you were setting up, and the weather was
That
terrible.
was Garlic Fest.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a rough one. It was raining. It was cold. But, you do it. You do it for the CBD.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also, like, we've done pop-ups where you can't not do it. Like, one, you agreed to do it, and two, like, unless it's, like, weather where you can't get to the event, like, we've definitely have gone places and, like,
that
have completely...
first event we did was, like, what a...
Oh, yeah, that whole thing was almost ruined. Because, like, I was driving there, and it was a monsoon, and I was like, fuck.
So much pressure on that event because, like, first of all, can we pat ourselves on the back for, like, throwing a thing that John Fetterman came to?
Yeah, I did. Someone was like, this guy's here, and he was like, I like your cheeseburger, and then I saw him on
rolled up
TV
in, like,
years
the
later.
4 black cars and stuff.
And he's like, I was wearing, like, sweatpants and hiking boots.
yeah.
I was like, who the fuck is this?
Nobody that was actually throwing the event was talking to each other because we were all so pissed about the weather. It was just like, and then like,
it was a lot because I remember getting there and I'm like, well, it changed the entire venue. And it was like a crazy storm that was wildly going through Easton. And I was like, I don't know if this is going to stop. And then we were like, what are we going to do? And I'm like, well, if Fetterman wasn't coming, I think we would have rescheduled it.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
That was like, you were like, because it was like, Torn Raw was like, well, we can reschedule this. And then you're like, well, I can't because this guy's coming and he'll never come. Like, to line that up again, I don't think it would have happened.
It definitely wouldn't have. But it was like 15 minutes before we were opening. The monsoon rolled through.
And people paid tickets.
Galen showed up to like set up to play music and he's like, I'm not setting my equipment up outside.
Yeah, so it was like we never got any relief because I was like, yo, I'll put up a tent and I brought food and I'll make food. I will make do with what we have because that's what I do in those situations. I did that with Gina a million times. I mean, I remember when we did the cigar one and it was raining and you guys came down to it and we were just like standing in mud. So like, and when we did finishers, it's like we've done shit out in the rain because early on you get caught in rain and then you realize that you got to get fucking a tent. So it's like I had the equipment to do it, but then I remember it's like there was no relief anywhere we went because then we had to change the way the entire inside was because the glass blowing couldn't be out back and then that had to go out front and then the food we adjusted and moved and then he came and was like, yeah, I'm not playing outside. And then it was like, fuck. And then it was like, I guess we got to move shit around inside. And then Thomas had to set up the bar inside, which was supposed to be outside. The entire event completely changed.
Yeah. It imploded 15 minutes
before
the show.
And people paid money for tickets. And it's like,
that's
we're like,
what
fuck.
had me like the most on edge. Like if it would have just been like an open event, like you can wander in.
Even though what they were getting was way more than what the ticket price was, but it still was something where I was like, fuck, people paid. You got to get a hold of everybody and then
Oh, honestly, I was super proud of the event that we put on. Like we had like an infused meal. We had infused drinks. We had a doctor there like giving out medical cards. We had John Fetterman speaking.
Yeah.
It was like, and it was like at Connections, which, I think is like a funny, like, the connection.
Yeah.
and like local art and local music and
Well, the
Galen
space
fucking
was
killed it,
killer
and-
because it was like outside and inside. But then what fucked us is that it was outside and inside.
Yeah.
So like that was something where, and then thank God it stopped. But then it was like that muggy, hey, a storm just went through.
no, like nobody.
We never really talked about how terribly that actually was.
Thank
but
God
still,
we're getting this
yeah.
off our chest right now.
Yeah, it was
No,
like
but
it was like
honestly-
landing a fucking plane crash, but everybody survived.
Dude, the day of, nobody was happy. But looking back on that, like, I'm really proud of what we all pulled off. And I'm proud of, like, you know, just like bringing a small network of people together and like making cool connections. And
Yeah, because we never did anything like that before. I mean, I had been doing
that
pop
was our
ups and
first
like
one.
I always have faith in pulling stuff off like that, and I don't know why because most of the stuff I try and tackle I've never done. Like when I did music down here, I'm like, yeah, we could do that, and then I'm just like, we're in the middle of it, and I'm like, what did you get yourself into? Like, you don't know what you're doing. But like to look back on that and like see like what you said, like there was a doctor there and people did get licensed. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It wasn't a waste of his time. Like he came in and did his consulting, and then
Yeah. We
you
had
know,
like like it was like a revolving door of appointments for him.
yeah, and then the music came back outside then because the rain was done, and he was able to move out. And then, you know, a couple like Fetterman did a thing, and then you were speaking, and then it went decently. And then I just remember at the end of the night, like people were still hanging out, and it was like hanging out in the art area, and then your mom was in the middle. Like it's an odd layout, but it worked. But
I loved it. I loved
like after that, I was like, no, I would never do that again in that space because you're fucked. You're fucked the way we were fucked. Like if we would have been inside just a big building that had like an outside
that
area.
space is so nice
Yes.
if the weather permits though.
Yes.
Like that art garden is just the fucking chef's kiss of like throwing a little garden party. So, you know.
Just looking back on it, like even like County Seat was talking about like doing stuff, and I was like, oh, that's just like a big square, and there's
Yeah.
a bar, and there's tables, and if it snows, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
And,
I
like,
want to
that-
get into
yeah.
doing like more of it. Like we've talked about this, but we should probably tell the people.
Yes.
Like we want to do events. Like we want to do little like happy hours with like and drink infusions and whatever else. And like so, I think hopefully this year we're gonna work on maybe just doing some cool cannabis events. It's like an untapped thing in the area, and people are interested in cannabis. They always want to talk about it. They always want to see what's going
Yeah,
on.
and
it's
I like getting into stuff that's untapped. Like when I did music down here with Christina, the goal was to get her content and try to see if you could take somebody who had talent and get them enough content where they can start like a career out of it in the sense of like, hey, you have technically a full album that you could drop, or you have solos, or you can take this and get YouTube videos, or there's a lot there that you could chop up. So like when that worked, I was like, oh, cool. But then like what I noticed is like people came down here that were from town and were like, hey, thanks for doing this. There's nothing to do in town. And then
Yeah.
I was like, oh, they're really, as much as everyone says there isn't anything to do around here, when you start doing stuff where people can do something, like you start getting into an area of like where people enjoy doing stuff. I mean, it's the whole reason we're opening is because there's nothing to do in town. There's not anywhere to get food in town. There's not anything except for pizza shops and salons. So like I want like when we open, we wouldn't be talking about, hey, we should go put on CBD events and try and work with people. We would just be doing it because I took all the obstacles out. Now we have a venue. Now we have a licensed kitchen. Now I have a building where I can bring somebody like County Seat in who has a traveling liquor license, and then you just need a bartender. And then now I can showcase County Seat. I can showcase you. I can serve food without having to build a restaurant in a rock garden. And now you can do that. And I think like the more people that start doing stuff like that, there's more things to do.
let's do a CBD brunch.
Yeah, I think you could but see, now it's like that's part of the reason, like we're going to be open and have our main business, but there's also like where we want to put on private dinners where like we have all the windows, but now we pull the curtains back and dim the lights and have music, but like there's a kitchen 10 feet from there. It's like I don't have to you don't have to look for the perfect space. We're building it.
Doing private infusion dinners is like my ultimate dream job.
But then what's cool is I can bring in chefs and other people who have products where I'm like, oh, I can bring them in and they can promote their product, but I can also infuse it, and then now you're able to help 2 people out.
I love the idea of doing like infused fine dining.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier with like the THC and CBD like canceling, I think it's cool to think about courses and balancing someone's vibe through the night. Like maybe first course has THC in it, second course like brings you back down with the CBD, and like all that layering, and like it just adds a layer of like science and math over the creative possibilities of food, and I just love that. It's just like
we always talked about doing it, and I would just like to get to a point where we can.
Yeah. Sounds like it's coming.
Yeah. I'm excited to do a bunch of different stuff. I always love having you on. You're always welcome to come on. When you get the tinctures down, we can do this sooner than later when you got that all figured out, because you want me to try it, and then we can, I'll give you my feedback, but I think we should also do it on air, or do something else, or bring a third person in. These are always fun to do. I always have a blast learning more. I'm thankful you guys fuck with the show and sponsor and everything like that, and I think the relationship does well, and I like that people actually listen to this and then go to the store and like kind of pay attention to it. So it's always nice when everything kind of meshes in that way, and I think there's a lot more that we could be doing, and I'm just excited to move forward with stuff, and I can't wait to open, so I'm not just fucking in quicksand constantly with this. There's just so much more I can offer to clients and people, and I just want to get open and start changing some stuff. I want to give you time to push the products with the soap and the new things that you guys are going to be carrying, and all the different things that are going on over at Mindleaf.
Okay, yeah. So we have a bunch of new edibles and flowers that are on the website. All of the strain information is on there. All of our edibles information is on there. We do ship through the mail, so feel free to order. We'll ship it right to your door. There's also a ton of stuff in store that isn't on the website. We have pipes, we have vape carts, we have soap, we have candles, we have drinks. We have all kinds of goodies. So stopping in is highly recommended. My mom's there. She'll talk your friggin' ear off. Make sure you have like 40 minutes to come. No, I don't want to make it a deterrent for
She's
people
awesome.
stopping in,
She's
but
into it so much.
Yeah, she's like she'll hype me up no matter what. It doesn't matter what I make. She'll hype me up. But yeah, what else are we doing? Let's see. We have a monthly giveaway on Instagram, which was supposed to happen today, but I'm here, so I'm late. But
make them wait.
Yeah, I think we're gonna give away like a vape bubbler this month. So cool. All you have to do is follow us on Instagram, like and share the post whenever I get around to it, and yeah, maybe that might be it, I guess.
Cool.
Watch for events.
I appreciate you coming on. Always a blast. Your first-time listener, first-time watcher, it's neveragainstudio.com. Spotify is going to eventually have the video. This might be up as a video by that time. I have to figure out how that is to upload. Subscribe to the YouTube. You can find us on iTunes. If you want to check out apparel, you can follow the link in my Instagram. That will take you to Dynamite Screen Printing, and I have drop shipping. So whatever you order off of there will be made in a couple of days and shipped to you. It's pretty easy. If you're looking for apparel, you can contact Kyle. He works with some of the clients that I have. He's super local. He's like 2 minutes outside of Nazareth, and has been a pleasure to work with. Thank you for coming on, and I will get you out of here. God bless. Be safe. Drive safe.
Thanks for having me.
Never Again Radio. Get into it, brother.